Don't be afraid of the dark. Be careful with stars. Not every light is shining guide you, baby. Don't let them rain on.
Many African countries have been using a money system set up by their former colonial master, France, for decades. This money, called the CFA franc, keeps the African nations tied down and controlled by European powers. But some brave leaders have had enough of this outdated slavery. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso are three neighbors saying no more to French rule over their cash. These revolutionary governments are joining forces to create a new currency system that finally breaks their people free from foreign control. This brings us to our topic of today. In this explosive video, you'll witness the defiant acts of these African leaders standing up to Western bullies. You'll learn shocking truths about how the CFA franc traps nations in poverty while enriching Europe. And you'll see the first heroic steps being taken to build a new future of true independence, prosperity, and pride for all Africans. France created the CFA franc money system on December 26, 1945. It was born out of France's greedy desire to control the economies and political systems of its African colonies. French leaders wanted to integrate all their colonies under one money system they controlled. The CFA franc became the forced currency in France's African territories. It allowed the European nation to dominate the economic structures of lands it occupied by force. The CFA system gave France the power to manipulate the money supply, interest rates, and more across all its colonies. France's African colonies sadly kept using the CFA franc even after independence in the 1960s and 70s. This led the former colonial master to maintain its tight financial grip over the new nations. Countries had to funnel money reserves into French banks. They couldn't issue their own currency or control monetary policy without French approval. France advertised the CFA system as promoting monetary unity and economic growth in Africa. But the real purpose was retaining power over its former colonies' money, markets, and resources. The CFA trapped nations in neo-colonial financial servitude to their previous European ruler. The system faced heavy criticism from many Africans. One major issue is the requirement that CFA countries must deposit at least 50% of their foreign currency reserves into the French treasury. This makes no sense for independent nations. Why should they give away half their money to a foreign power? This policy exists solely to let France control its former colonies. Another problem is the CFA's lack of independent monetary policy. CFA countries cannot set their own interest rates, issue currency, or devalue to boost exports. They must wait for France to make any changes to the CFA's value. This strips economic sovereignty from nations using the currency. Worst of all, the CFA is pegged to the strong euro currency used in Europe. This artificially inflates prices for African exports on global markets. It makes CFA countries uncompetitive compared to cheaper producers like China. The overpriced exports prevent industrialization and force nations to rely on just selling raw materials abroad. This system clearly undermines the economic freedom of African states. It traps countries in a neo-colonial model favoring foreign corporations and elites over local business development. No sovereign nation should allow this subjugation. Mali had attempted to break free from the CFA 1 year after achieving flag independence from France. The newly liberated West African nation of Mali took a pioneering stand in 1962. Its defiant leaders refused to accept France's continued monetary control through the CFA franc system. Mali's government made the historic decision to ditch the colonial-era CFA and launch the country's own currency, known as the Mali franc. This bold move sought to finally sever all financial ties and reassert full economic sovereignty over their affairs. But France's response was harsh and uncompromising. The former colonial power fiercely opposed Mali's audacious attempt to free itself from France's CFA monetary shackles. Intense French opposition combined with internal political divisions rapidly undermined the fledgling Mali franc. Within just 2 decades, Mali's revolutionary new currency had crumbled under immense pressure. The nation's leaders were forced into the humiliating reversal of shamefully rejoining the very CFA bloc they had courageously tried to escape. France's overwhelming counterattack left an indelible scar. For over 30 years after Mali's failed monetary rebellion, no other former French African colony dared attempt a similar break from the CFA system's suffocating grip. However, a new alliance has been formed to revive the push for African monetary sovereignty. 3 neighboring nations have decided to join forces to form the Alliance of Sahel States. This alliance was initially formed in September 2023 as the Liptako-Gourma Authority, a defense pact allowing Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso to combine their military forces against the escalating threat of jihadist rebel groups plaguing the tri-border region. However, the leader, President Ibrahim Traoré, soon revealed grander ambitions, evolving the alliance into a full-fledged political, economic, and monetary union to counter the French neocolonial influence embodied by the ECOWAS bloc. The leaders of these countries, including President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso, have made clear their intention to break away from all forms of neocolonial control by former Western powers like France. A core goal is liberating their economies from the CFA franc currency system. These 3 nations have already dealt major blows to French influence in their lands. They collectively withdrew from the Economic Community of West African States regional bloc in late 2023, seen as overly dominated by France and its allies. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso aim to decisively cut economic, monetary, and political ties with their former colonial master by forming an alternative alliance. Abandoning the CFA in favor of a new common currency is the next crucial step in this quest for full independence and sovereignty. The intentions of the alliance became crystal clear in early 2024. Leaders came out forcefully declaring plans to scrap the CFA franc currency. Burkina Faso's President Ibrahim Traoré fired the first salvo in a February interview. "Everything we've done has surprised you, hasn't it?" he said. "More changes might still surprise you. And it's not just about currency. We will break all ties that keep us in slavery." Days later, General Abdourahmane Chiani of Niger echoed Traoré's defiant stance. "Currency is a sign of sovereignty," Chiani stated bluntly. "The Alliance of Sahel States is recovering their full sovereignty. It's unacceptable for our states to be France's cash cows." Such fiery rhetoric reveals the intense determination to sever monetary links with France. These leaders view the CFA as a symbol of ongoing slavery, robbing their people of true independence decades after achieving flag freedom. Yet these leaders move forward undeterred, entrenching a rift that could ultimately shatter the ECOWAS Union if other members lose patience with the hardline boycotts. This open revolt has inspired ordinary Africans fed up with France's oversized role in their affairs. Recent protests in ECOWAS states like Senegal and Ivory Coast saw angry mobs burn French flags and businesses while demanding their nations also quit the CFA currency. If Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso successfully transition to their planned new era, other French ex-colonies may very well follow their trailblazing lead in asserting full monetary independence. France's economic influence would rapidly diminish across its former African empire. Beyond just the Francophone sphere, the Sahel Trio's defiance emboldens a broader Pan-African pushback against lingering outside dominance, be it French, American, Chinese, or any other foreign power. Their stubborn prioritization of sovereignty resonates with a rising generation yearning for true self-determination and dignity. When Mali briefly launched its currency in 1962 before being ruthlessly quashed, it could never have imagined that over 60 years later, a revived bid to destroy the last financial chains tying the African continent to its former European colonizers would occur. But the revolutionary alliance between Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso embodies a profound renaissance of African self-determination that simply refuses to accept antiquated systems of outside economic control and exploitation any longer. By following through on ditching the CFA franc in favor of a new homegrown common Sahel currency, these plucky Sahel nations would etch their names in the history books as true vanguards of monetary liberation from neocolonialism. Their audacious pursuit is an inspirational call to arms for all Africans to finally cast off the shackles of the past and earn the full economic autonomy and sovereignty that is every people's birthright in the modern world. While a rocky transition fraught with risks surely lies ahead, the alliance of Sahel states appears unwavering in its conviction that severing all fiscal ties with France is a worthy sacrifice. Only then can their beloved homelands achieve true freedom, dignity, and self-respect as masters of their own destiny at last.